97% of all small businesses fail over 10 years. 2/3 fail in the first 5. And that's because people just never actually learn to understand the mechanics and money and how money works in business.
If you want a different result, you got to do something different. When you get the fundamentals of a business right, you can literally plop that into any industry, any vertical, any market, and you can grow and scale.
Welcome back to another episode of Building Billions with Brandon Dawson. Today, I'm with a dear friend of mine, Candy Valentino. We have some special announcements that we'll be talking about on this show, but it is so good to have you on the show. I've been trying to get you on the show for what, a year now, maybe 2 years? You've been so busy. You've been so busy, too busy.
I love it, but thanks for having me.
So let's tell everybody, kind of introduce yourself, who you are, what your background is, because it's relevant to the conversation that we're going to be having.
Yeah, so I've been building businesses for the last 25 years. I started my first business when I was 19, really small town with no degree, no money. Dad was a mechanic, mom cleaned houses, and I just watched people work really, really hard. And so I wanted to do something different, right? If you want a different result, you got to do something different. So I thought, what would it be like to build a big business with a lot of employees? And I'd heard a stat at the time that less than 2% of all female entrepreneurs, because we're talking late 90s, so this was a long time ago, ever broke $1 million. And even of that small subset, less than 0.5% ever was able to be acquired. And so to me, I was like, perfect, that's my goal. Like, that's kind of how naive I was. And so I just started out in business and really got down to the fundamentals of finance and fell in love with numbers and data-driven decisions and building and growing and kind of went from there to building additional companies, pulling profits out of it, spinning off real estate, investing in assets and stuff. And so that's really what I've been doing up until you and I met just a couple years ago.
Yeah. So what's some of the bigger businesses that you incubated and built?
So nothing super fancy. Like I started with what I had. I had 6 months to get a license. I started a salon and spa where there was none within an hour and a half of us. So I pretty much dominated this little space because I had seen spas in New York one time and I was like, why do we not have any of these things around here? So I started that. I started learning how to manufacture products, how to grow a team, just all through trial and error. Then I realized, okay, we have this customer base that's asking us for all of these other recommendations, from hair products to skincare to candles, makeup, jewelry, you name it. And so I just started figuring out how to manufacture products and then created verticals inside of that business and spun off additional businesses inside of that, took our existing customer base, was able to sell them to make sure that we had a solid idea, and then just continued to grow that. We'd had kiosks and malls across the country and started e-commerce back in the early 2000s when nobody knew what the heck it was. And then that exploded. I mean, we were selling gift cards and products online when nobody even knew how to do it. So kind of a pioneer in that space, and then started helping other people. How did you do this? Just basically an accidental consultant along the way. And then that kind of just turned into helping other entrepreneurs. Because what I didn't realize, and I know you know this, that when you get the fundamentals of a business right, you can literally plop that into any industry, any vertical, any market, and you can grow and scale like nobody else. And so I didn't mean to do that. I just kind of stumbled across that. And that's just been my passion for the last 2.5 decades.
So when you and I, a couple of years ago when we met, you had sold a group of spas or a group of and that's really because we had 10X Health. And so I was talking to you about.
That's right.
I was like, we were just emerging out, starting it. And I remember thinking, oh man, and picking your brain, and you were just firing off answers. And so what happens to a business owner when they take on so much activity over the course of a long period of time and they start learning from their mistakes, and all of a sudden they start to realize there's a bigger, better, faster way to do things, and the processing speed picks up. That's one thing that I remember with you when I was talking to you is your processing speed. You were like, do. And that's what I have learned. You can tell when somebody's been a successful entrepreneur because they don't drag their answers on. They don't go, well, let me think about it. Or the ones like, what are your revenues? Well, they're good. They never give you a direct answer. So talk a little bit about your experience and how you built that kind of operating speed to attack problems and overcome them and move to the next level. Because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck on things.
Yeah.
And one thing I've seen you do, you're good at moving off of things and onto the next thing. How did you develop that skill set?
So I believe is a fundamental that execution, your speed of execution is what's going to separate you from everyone else. If we sit here and we talk about what we want to do and we wallow, we're missing out on opportunity in the market. So what I found is every time I made a decision, what was the worst thing that could happen? I would fail at it. I would lose money. We could always make more. I would, maybe piss off a client or an employee or something, but you just figure it out and then you adjust and you make a different decision and then you move on. I never had the ability to not be fast with it because I had so much leverage from being poor. Like I didn't want to go back to a trailer. So for me, it was like I needed to figure this out. And the faster that I could get data, make a decision, and then evaluate the data, I could make a better decision the next time or double down on a decision that I made that was good. Because I really believe business at its like fundamental, basic, bare bones is you've got analysis, you've got capital, and you've got execution. And if you can flip through those three things at lightning speed, you can grow and scale better than anybody in your industry. So to me, it's not just about the idea, it's not just the implementation, it's how fast can we execute and what team do we need to support the speed of that execution, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss that too. They try to do everything themselves, and heck, I was there too in the beginning, but you realize that you can grow faster, wider, and have more depth in your vertical if you really hire the right people.
When I met you, you had just launched your consultative business basically, and you were helping hundreds of business owners. And you and I had a conversation about the ability to do that even in scale. Like it's very difficult if it's just a one-to-one conversation because there's no resources. And you can coach people, but you can't really like support them because you get worn out. And so when you and I started talking, we're in the space we're in right now. I showed it to you. There was 3 people in here. It was 25,000 square feet. And I told you back then, I think this will be a good launch pad for us for the next 5 years. And here we are, we're basically 2 years into it. And not only are we in this space, we've added another 20,000 square feet. So we're 45,000 square feet here. And we have another 100,000 square feet going in up north. And between all of our companies, I think we're like 375 employees now. So it's insane. You've seen that growth. You've experienced that kind of growth. And so one of the things you and I have talked about is there's areas of the business that requires coaching and operations combined. And so I made an invitation to you, I don't know, a year ago or 2 years ago, that if you ever wanted to become part of a team where we're doing both the coaching and the operating infrastructure, I would love to have that conversation with you. And so I think we have a cool announcement coming out.
We do.
And that is that you've decided to join the 10X Cardone Ventures team to bring your wisdom and your experience in the finance area of the business, because you understand all areas of the business. But one of the weaknesses we had was somebody that could go out in the marketplace and really talk about in a way where people can hear it, because finance can be boring. We try to call it finance because it's fun when you're making money, but when you're trying to learn how to build your business appropriately, it's not so fun. And so you're coming onto the team to work with us as a partner of ours to bring finance and make it fun and successful to all business owners in the community. Talk a little bit about what excites you about doing that.
Well, first, if I can back up, when I met you, I remember leaving and saying to Anthony, my fiance, I was like, I have never met anyone who I have just in a quick conversation, I understand his depth of knowledge of business. I understand what his integrity is of what he's trying to do. And I don't think there was one thing you said that I fundamentally disagreed with. And I was blown away because, to be transparent, everyone in this space really haven't done it. Like a lot of the people that are talking about business or they're having coaching or they're doing masterminds, like they did not first build a company. Their first business is this coaching business, or their first business was maybe something else in a different space. And now they're trying to do this in order to become a business owner. And I just think that's so dangerous. And so I've always had this like inner civil war with the space, to be honest.
With the social media, business advisory space.
Exactly.
I agree.
So I just thought there was just always this like angst about it where I was never full. And when I'm fully in, I'm fully in. So even though we were growing and, our first year we did a couple million, I think 2.2 or 2.5 million, accidentally, because I had no idea what I was doing. I never sold from stage. I had to ask people how to do it. When I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like one other voice, maybe two that I possibly knew of that actually have done this. And so you were just always there. If anybody needed something that I wasn't going to support them with, I always referred here. So it was a natural progression, I think, that then just a few months ago we were like, hey, what's going on? And then, you know, because I think finance, right? There's so many elements of business, as we know, that entrepreneurs need to develop their knowledge in and understand it and get supported in. But at the root of it, all of your problems in the beginning are really profit-based. If you don't have your finances in order, you can't hire the right people. You can't develop processes. You can't understand operations. You can't even lead yourself, let alone a team. So I think fundamentals is so important. And when I was working with all of these business owners, I realized that it didn't matter if they were doing their first million or if they were doing 12, that they still did not know the fundamental pieces of finance. And so I think it is a massive unlock, and it is a leverage point for them to really be able to grow so that they can start to understand the dynamics of scale and what they need to do in order to build something that's sustainable. Because we can go pour gasoline on a business tomorrow, but if they don't have the sustainability, the foundation in place, if they don't have their finances in order, it doesn't matter. It's just gonna be like a rocket that's gonna burn out really quick.
And we see that. I know you've seen it a lot. I see it. And let's just look at the stats. 97% of all small businesses fail over 10 years. 2/3 fail in the first 5. And that's because people just never actually learn to understand the mechanics of money and how money works in business, setting up proper reserves, allocations, doing their accounting right, paying their taxes, paying their compensation structures right. Most business owners rob all the money out of the business as the business gets bigger because they want to pay themselves more money or they want to buy new things.
Yeah.
And they put the business in a position where it's in jeopardy. And you and I have talked about this the last couple of years. And so your expertise was building a business with no money. And then you learned the principles of it. And then you built multiple businesses with no money. And then you had exits and you were able to build your own cash resources, which is fundamentally how we believe we should build.
Yep.
Because the chief third complaint for why businesses go out of business is they don't have any money.
Right.
And they can't get access to money.
And even what you just rattled off, like you were the first person, because I love the data. So for you to rattle off all the stats, I was the only person that I knew of that knew all the stats, like that 68% of businesses in their first 3 years, and then it's going to be 80 in their first, and like you said, 97, like you know all of those because you've done the work before you just went out and started talking about it. And I just think that is undervalued in the marketplace. And so when we were talking recently and you were like, you know, what's going on? And I was like, you know, I told you what my favorite thing was. And you're like, whoa, we don't have that.
It's their biggest hole in our company.
I know.
We got great finance people, but they're operating people.
Yeah.
And to find somebody who can articulate and communicate about the importance and significance of the whole understanding finances and then understanding how to report finances and then manage them. Like that ability to connect with people, because the topic itself is very difficult for people to wrap their mind around. And you're an expert in this area. And I'm like, man, it's our biggest opportunity within the company is to find somebody who can go out in the marketplace and really talk about the importance of this and support them with the different programs that we've created, which we have, which is nice. But the people that teach those programs they're not in front of cameras and they're not out presenting the opportunities in a way where people can hear it.
Well, and I think there's nothing like an entrepreneur that learns from another entrepreneur. There's a relatability. You know, it's like they always say you don't relate to the message if you can't relate to the messenger. And so coming from poverty, not having any money. I had 6 weeks on an SBA loan or I was going to run out of money. I started with 7 employees. So it was like, I had to figure this out. There was no one coming to save me. There was no white knight. Like I had to figure this out. And I have so much empathy for entrepreneurs that are up at night and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to pay this person. They don't know if they should hire this person. Okay, I know that I need people, but I can barely pay myself. Or they're just trying, like you said, take money out of the business. And then they could actually be stifling their growth because they're not investing in the business. And for you to have the level of businesses that you've had in your lifetime and still start this from scratch, I was like, these are my people.
Yeah.
Because you didn't go out and get another, you could have, I could have, we could go out and get a bunch of investors and bring money in, but you didn't. And I think that I love that you were intentional about that because you make different decisions when you're working with the house's money as opposed to other people's money.
100%. And now we've created a business. We're just starting. 2024 will be our 5th year in business. So we just ended our 4th 2023, our 4th year in business. And in our 4th year of business, from startup, no invested capital, no debt, no paid-in capital. So literally, like, just organically started and grew the business from scratch. And in our 4th year, we'll do over 150 million in revenue. And now we're spinning off a bunch of companies. And I think next year we'll see 2 to 250 million. It gets so exciting, but then what happens is you outpace your team's ability to keep up with it if you don't bring in people that have those reference points. And that's why I'm so excited to get to work with you, because you're going to get to carry the message to all these business owners of how to build a business without using other people's money, how to manage the business using the money they have, how to get the business to generate more financial resources for the business, and then how to use those financial resources to incentivize team members in order to stay with you and succeed with you. And then eventually how to get the financial impact to generate enough capital that you can start putting money away in things that can create passive income, which I know you're a huge proponent of passive income. And then eventually actualizing through maybe a liquidity event or something, a huge net worth through the business. And these are things that you and I, we've talked about off and on over the last couple of years. And what I love about working with you is you have the passion to carry that whole conversation out to the marketplace, but also you have the technical skill set to show people how we do it and how you did it. And for the community, this is very important.
And it's so important to have both, right? Like, you can go to an event and be all motivated and all inspired, but if you leave that room and you don't implement or you don't execute on what you just learned, your life isn't going to change. So I think the strategy and the tactics, like, I get so frustrated when I'm like, okay, well, people well, you can do it. You can do it. Just start. Okay, well, there's a part of that in the beginning, but you need to understand what to do, because if not, you're going to burn through that capital and you're going to close like 97% of business owners do. And so I think it's so critically important to understand the strategies and the tactics, and not just in this lofty way, but understand them, how they apply to you in your business, where you are in your build. Because we can talk about one thing right now, and if someone's doing 1.2 million, it's going to be completely differently received and needed to someone doing 25 million.
Exactly.
So I think that it's these broad blanket statements are doing people a disservice. And personally, what I love too about our partnership is, like, you can't do it all. Like, I can't be passionate about this and want to help people and then also lead the sales team and try to hire. Like, it's too much. I think if I would have been doing this 25 years ago, I would have that desire. But I think at this stage in my life, it's like you have less fluid intelligence and more crystallized intelligence. And so I want to do more with that. And I feel like I can help and serve more people with the capacity of what you've built, as opposed to trying to build that. And that's why I was like, as opposed to me trying to go out and build this, what can we do and just magnify together and help more people and have more impact?
Man, it's going to be so much fun. And then now also, in addition to that, you've picked up your own show.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're going to be talking about these type of subjects, all business subjects, but tell everybody what your show is and what it's called.
So it's called The Investor, Building the American Dream. And so very much like Marcus Lemonis and The Profit, we're going to be going into small businesses, being able to help them if they had, a challenge in their finances, or, some business owners, like, are family and there's a death in the family, and that business is now going to go under because they didn't have a lot of the structure in place that they needed in order for that business to go to the family, or even have a buyer, because no one's going to buy a business and buy a job, right? So we're going to be able to go into these businesses, be able to help them. The show is going to show it. It's going to be able to amplify entrepreneurship, because, as you know, this is a challenging time for entrepreneurs. And I only think these next couple years could get more challenging if they don't have the right knowledge and information. And I'm not trying to fearmonger.
No, but you're right.
Plus
you have $5 trillion in our targeted marketplace of small businesses. You have $5 trillion of baby boomers that are nearing retirement age, and with all the complications of running a business, that's accelerating. So you have a lot of people that just didn't, as you know, they didn't prepare their businesses, and now they're going to try to sell them, and there's not really a marketplace for a lot of them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I always say when entrepreneurs hear this and they think, oh my gosh, like, that's me, like, don't have any shame or guilt about it. You just got to change it. Because I think sometimes people wallow in this, well, I didn't do that, and now I do have a job, and I hear what Brandon's saying on his show all the time, and I realize I'm doing this wrong. Like, that's okay. What you did before to get you to this point is fine. It's what you do next to set your family up for
because
success.
you can fix those things really fast.
So fast.
If someone's been in business 10 years or 15 years, they've technically been building it wrong. Within 12 months, much, you can change everything about
100%
it.
agree.
They just, because they don't know what they don't know, they think it's just, oh, I'm going to get out in a couple of years. So, and then they get robbed when they go to sell it, if they get any value at all. And so really helping people understand the fundamentals of how to create value. And I know you're extremely passionate about that, which carries and resonates with the message even that much bolder.
Well, thank you. I think growing up, seeing my dad do exactly what we're talking about, you know, he worked 60, 80, 100 hours a week, just trying to put food on the table, no employees, no business. And when he wanted to quit, he was selling his equipment. He was selling tools. There was nothing to sell because he had his name on the door. And so I think that, like, my gosh, if he would have had the same amount of effort, but if he would have just engineered the build a little bit different, he would have at least had a 7-figure exit on the other side. And so that to me breaks my heart, that I know that there is smart, well-intended, good people that want to do good things in their industry. And they just don't have the right tools to do it yet. But like you said, the beautiful part is when you get them, it's a very short period of time in order to really amplify and grow.
And I know you know this as a fact. When you actually help people like that, they move from being like a client to a friend, and then from a friend to a lot of those people you help, you feel like they're family.
Yeah.
And they feel that way about you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like multiplying and extending through, because 93% of all these businesses have what I call family orientation.
Yeah.
They might not have all family members working in the family, or they might not be co-owned by the family, but they have family members somehow in the business, supporting, helping, you know, whatever. And so when the business struggles and the family struggles, the community struggles, and everything gets sucky. And so if you can fix these businesses, teach business owners to share with their team members, you can really drive impact into communities. And I know that's equally passionate.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing. Like, I just got a Christmas card from Erin, a client of mine. She was doing about 2 million and just kind of not sure what she wanted to do. Within 6 months together, she went from 2 million to 3.5. 6 months after that, she already had a buyer looking at 9 times EBITDA in order for an investment. And she bought a beach house because she understood how to grow that revenue while maintaining profitability. Now, her goal wasn't to build a $50 million. She's probably 60s. So she didn't want to build something that was 50 million. She just wanted to build something that she could have a capital exit, be able to retire with her husband to the beach, and live a great life. And if that's your goal, that's fantastic. Just know what you're building and what your end looks like so that we can reverse engineer whatever you want. And that might sound lofty to somebody right now that's stuck in the mud, but it is actually that easy. Like, to me, it's the same as if we jumped in a plane and we decide where we want to go and we start to tweak the instruments in order to arrive there. If you want a $5 million company or a $50 million company, the sooner we can start to build that, the more quickly you're going to be able to achieve it. And that's what I think's so exciting about business. If you don't want to build a $100 million company or a $1 billion company, that's okay. But just know what you're building so that we can tweak those instruments and help you get there.
And get there with maximum profitability.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot wait for what we're going to create together. I'm so excited to have you on the team. I've wanted you on the team for a couple years, but you know, they say all good things take a little bit of time. And so I know that our community is going to have massive impact, hearing from you, working with you, learning from you. I know our team here, it's going to be awesome to introduce you into the culture here and have people get to learn from you here and work with you. And so all around, this is something, because you and I will refresh this in a year and update on everybody on what we've created and what we've done and what the impact is. And for you on your new show, I'm a huge supporter of it. You know that. I'm excited to see you go out and crush this show and to create an impact for entrepreneurs all around the country and maybe around the world that watch it. So,
well, thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I know that we are going to unleash so many entrepreneurs to be able to build. What you've done here in such a short period of time is a testament to what you're able to do to other people, for other people in their businesses. And so I think it's just awesome to lock arms with you and Natalie and the rest of the team and just to be able to really help and serve some people. So I'm excited.
Yeah, there you go. So you heard it directly from our mouths, what we're doing together. Candy Valentino, a dear friend of mine, unbelievable entrepreneur, and a passionate educator on how to grow, scale, and create value, especially in the finance side of the business, and understanding that. So having her on the team representing the 10X brand with Cardo Ventures is something that we're super, super excited about. If you like this episode, leave a comment, like it, maybe share it with a friend. This is how we grow the show. This is what inspires us to create these shows. And so with that said, look, we're ending the year. Make sure you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's. Make sure that you're maximizing. Don't give up with the week left. Make it the best week in the year, and end the year strong, and prepare yourself for a remarkable next year. So thank you for joining me on another episode of Building Billions with Brandon Dawson, and we will see you on the next show.